The conference hall fell silent as Commander Lyra Vance entered. Even after 15 years, the assembled delegates from across the Galactic Empire couldn't help but stare. Not at her, though her decorated uniform commanded respect, but at the towering figure that moved like a shadow behind her. Kale stood nearly 8 feet tall, his obsidian scales catching the light like polished armor. His amber eyes swept the room with predatory precision, and every species present felt their ancient instincts scream the same warning. Apex predator. The Valorians, the Centauri traders, even the war-hardened Kryn soldiers, all shifted uncomfortably in their seats. But Kyle didn't prowl. He didn't snarl. He simply stood behind Commander Vance, patient and watchful, as he had done for over a decade. The Valorian ambassador was the first to speak, his multiple eyes blinking in rapid succession. "Commander Vance," he said, his translator rendering his chittering voice into standard galactic. "We still cannot fathom how you accomplished this," Lyra smiled faintly. "I didn't accomplish anything, Ambassador. I simply refused to be afraid." 15 years earlier, the distress beacon had led Lyra's reconnaissance ship to the shattered remains of a Drakari colony world. The Drakari, an entire species of apex predators that had terrorized the outer systems for generations before mysteriously vanishing. Every species in the known galaxy had celebrated their extinction. Lyra's orders were clear. Survey, document, report. Do not engage. Do not investigate anomalies. But when her scanner picked up a faint life sign in the rubble, something stirred in her chest. Something fundamentally human. She found the cub trapped beneath collapsed stone, its obsidian scales dulled with dust, its small body trembling. It couldn't have been more than a few months old. Its parents were nowhere to be found, likely casualties of whatever cataclysm had destroyed the settlement. The creature hissed at her, baring tiny fangs. Every regulation, every protocol, every ounce of common sense told Lyra to leave it. The Drakari were monsters. They had slaughtered colonies. They knew no mercy. Lyra knelt down and extended her hand. "Hey there," she whispered. "I'm not going to hurt you." The cub snapped at her fingers. She didn't pull back. Minutes stretched into an hour. Slowly, impossibly, the cub's trembling lessened. It sniffed her hand. Then with the tiniest sound, something between a whimper and a growl, it crawled into her arms. Lyra carried it back to her ship, knowing she had just committed career suicide. The Empire's reaction. When Lyra returned to high command with a Drakari cub, the reaction was predictable. Outrage. Demands for immediate termination of the creature. Court-martial proceedings for Lyra. Admiral Chen himself stormed into the holding bay where Lyra had set up a makeshift habitat. "Have you lost your mind, Commander? That thing is a weapon, a killing machine." "He's a child," Lyra said quietly, cradling the cub, now named Kale, in her arms. "He didn't choose what species he was born into. It will grow up to be a monster, only if we make him into one." The trial lasted 3 weeks. Xenobiologists testified about Drakari aggression patterns. Military historians recounted atrocities. Psychologists declared the project impossible. Predators couldn't be domesticated, couldn't form bonds, couldn't be trusted. Lyra stood before the tribunal and spoke a single sentence that would echo through history. "Every species deserves a chance to be more than their worst instincts." The tribunal's verdict was unprecedented. Lyra would be allowed to raise Kale, but under strict supervision. One incident, one sign of aggression, and both would be terminated immediately. The years between humans, the galaxy had learned, possessed a strange quality. They called it stubborn hope. Where other species saw impossibilities, humans saw challenges. Where others saw monsters, humans saw potential. Lyra raised Kale with the same principles she'd been raised with. Discipline, compassion, loyalty. She taught him language, not just galactic standard, but a dozen dialects. She taught him strategy, history, ethics. She taught him to channel his predatory instincts into protection rather than destruction. And Kale learned. By age 5, he could outthink most tactical computers. By age 7, he had saved Lyra's life when their transport was ambushed by pirates, his ferocity unleashed not in mindless rage, but in calculated defense of the one person who had shown him kindness. By age 10, the whispers began to change. Stories spread through the fleet. The Drakari who fought beside humans. The predator who refused to kill needlessly. The warrior who understood mercy. When the Kryn incursion threatened to overwhelm the outer colonies, Kyle volunteered for the front lines. Military command debated for weeks, but Lyra vouched for him. Together, they led a desperate defense that saved millions of lives. Kale fought like his ancestors. Swift, deadly, unstoppable. But he fought with purpose, with honor, with humanity. Present day in the conference hall, Ambassador Thyros of the Centauri Collective leaned forward. "Commander Vance," he said, "you must understand our concern. You have proven one Drakari can be civilized. But should your efforts be replicated? Should we seek out more of his kind?" Lyra glanced back at Kale, who met her gaze. In his amber eyes, she saw the cub she'd rescued, the warrior he'd become, and something deeper. Gratitude, purpose, belonging. "No," Lyra said firmly. What happened with Kale wasn't about changing a species. It was about giving one individual a choice. Every being deserves that chance. Kale stepped forward then, his voice a deep rumble that filled the chamber. "My people were monsters," he said, each word deliberate. "But Commander Vance taught me that what we are born as doesn't define what we become. I choose to honor her faith in me. I choose to protect those who cannot protect themselves. I choose to be more." Silence descended again, but this time it was different. Not fear, but awe. The Valorian ambassador rose slowly. "Then we have much to learn from humanity," he said. "And much to learn from you, Kale of the Empire." As the session adjourned, delegates approached cautiously, but with curiosity rather than terror. They spoke with Kale, asked questions, listened to his story. Lyra watched from the side, a small smile on her face. Humanity had given the galaxy many things: faster-than-light travel, quantum computing, fusion reactors. But their greatest gift, she knew, was something simpler: hope, and the audacity to believe that even the most fearsome predator could choose to be gentle.